The 13th day of May 2025. Exam approach. Exam approach. Now, although many people might think this something they don't want and they can just turn off now, I don't want you looking at it unless you think you'll get something out of it. It's really meant for students, but students can be any age. And there's a thing called the eternal student, and that's people that wouldn't work on batteries and they keep doing courses and they end up at 80 years of age well educated and nothing to show for it. I don't approve of that at all. Anyway, real true education. Education begins with E, and that's what I'm doing here, whether people agree with it or whether they're not. Now, so how do you go about an exam? You could be you could be a student sitting exam. I did the primary cert, the group certificate in Inver College in Carrickmacross Technical School. They wouldn't let us sit the leave on that time because we were considered to be a bit more ignorant than the fellas at the Patrician Brothers and the St. Pat's in Cavan. You know, those clerical schools. We were the roughs. What I do, only went to Newry and sat the A-levels. And I got an A-level in Irish and I failed the other three. We sat there around Daisy Hill there and thumbed a lift from Carrick to Newry. And got lifts. Anyway, then I did the Garda entrance examination. I passed that. I sat several exams in Templemore in the college for law, mainly law. I think it was. Mainly law. And there was a few other subjects as well. It wasn't in drill or anything like that, but generally speaking, academic type things, of which I remember law, like the Road Traffic Act and all that sort of stuff. I passed them. I used to get an average of 81. And the next thing was then I sat the sergeant's exam and I passed it. And I sat the inspector's exam, promotion exam, and I passed it, and only 13 passed it in all of Ireland. And there was 4 sat it in my division, and I was the only one of the 4 who didn't get promoted. And one fella failed it, but he had a relation, a high-level politician in Fianna Fáil, and he failed it, but he appealed it, and he was a dunderhead, but they give him a pass, and he got promoted on the next exam. Don't get me talking about the kind of a superintendent he was, or we'd be here all day. Anyway, that was it. Now, then I did the degree course while I was still in the job. And they did give me a bit of a subsidy to do it, I have to say. And I wouldn't have done it at all, only for a crowd of the women up in the VEC wanted an extra lad to sit get the classes locally in the College of Knowledge in Cavan. And so I did that, and we did a lot. There was a lot of exams there. There was something like 6 exams every year there. Anyway, I got through that all right. And I might do a programme on that course. There's some very funny stories. You'll really enjoy some of the stories. All true. Anything I tell like that is true. I don't make up stuff. You might think I do, but I don't. If I do, you'll know from me that I'm only telling a story, a wise one, you know, or an old joke or something. But the reality can be funnier than the actual make up. Anyway, I want to go about getting how you get the pass. Remember, if you're sitting exams, and you're probably maybe a person of 17 or something, if you're sitting exams, your object is to maximise your marks. That's what you're there for, to get the maximum marks you can. Now, in some schools in Ireland, the teachers are so bad that even the travelling people get grinds. I knew a teacher one time in English that was so bad, she'd have them studying really highfalutin bits. Really highfalutin bits. And when they went to do the exam, them questions wouldn't come up. And everyone got grinds, including the travelling children. And they all did well as a result. And she was in, after when the exam results came out, bragging she had the best results in the country. That's how crazy the thing can be. And I met her one of I told her the truth. By God, she was spitting. She didn't like it. She didn't like it. Anyway, she still got her pension and all. And it's worse now. In New Jersey in America, you'll be a teacher, primary for kids, without maths, English, or geography, I think it is. In other words, a complete dunderhead. Now, the first thing to remember about your course is when you're studying your course, try and get the back papers. Try and get the old papers, because the people that set the exam have them. The other thing then is listen to the lecturer or the teacher. There may be something that's unlikely to come up. A very good example of that was when I was doing my course. I pity I hadn't me Martha board here. I'll show off a bit. Anyway, I once bought a television aerial on hire purchase to see how it worked. That's all I ever bought on hire purchase. But I remember the teacher dropping it one day and saying, hire purchase is becoming obsolete. I wouldn't dwell on it too much. And that's very important to hear, and you don't study it. And it's very important, if you miss a day, to ask your fellow students, what did they say? What did she say? Yes, she said that hire purchase not coming on. Gather up those little hints. Also, there'll be certain subjects will be topical and they'll probably be on it. And then there's super topical subjects. And so you want to watch them. They're dangerous. I'll give you an example of a super topical subject. I was doing my course and I was friendly with a chap, a friend of mine. I can't really say much for people to know. And he had one daughter. A great girl, very funny. She was very bubbly, The fun of her, I'd be telling her stories and she'd laugh and all that kind of a thing. But I'll do another video about that. But I don't want to identify her. But lovely, lovely girl. And she wanted just to get her degree course. But the internet was the whole up and coming thing. Now, me being an old spoil sport, I said to them all, the internet is not worth reading. It's a load of nonsense. Why? Why, Val? Sure, it's the whole thing. It'll not be on the exam. Well, you see. And so nobody knows what it is. And he doesn't know either. So anyway, we were doing things. And I can't remember exactly, but I think it was the law of contract. And you had to write down the points. But the question that came up on number 8, I remember the number of it, was at the present day, the internet is being used to do deals and all of that. Explain, I'm trying to think of it now, how the law of contract would be used to buy a pair of shoes. Now, just get it like that. Please understand. Anyway, I spotted that she was going to answer the question on the internet. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't smell it. Whereas, in fact, the question was not that. The question was any contract. Whether I was selling a horse in the fair, or buying a bullock in the mart, or a cow, or buying a lawnmower, or buying it online, the same law of contract applied. The answer was they offered the exception intention to create legal relations and all of that. And she had all that off. But I went in and looked at the paper, and she had a pencil pair. And I was kind of helping her, So I made sure she had a pencil pair. And I told her, when I saw the question, I knew that was contract. It wasn't internet. And I went down with my pencil and I said to him, I just said this to the lad there. You see, we're only starting the exam. And I was pairing away. I said, don't do it. Go ahead, pair your pencil, Val. Don't do it. And he was pairing away. And I was going away down. And don't do it. And she couldn't get across that I was trying to prompt her not to do question 8. Or at least if she did it, to realise it was on contract. It wasn't on the internet. And I failed. I had the pencil wore down to here, and I failed to get across to her that I was trying to get her this message. And off she did, of course, and did question 8 on the internet and failed the exam miserably. But the story of how she passed it, I might tell you again, but for now anyway, she did get through again eventually. So there's an example. I spotted straight away that the internet was only mentioned. The real thing was, did you know the laws of contract? Anyway, we'll go on with this now. So now, you go into your exam, be very careful of shared lifts. Be very careful of shared lifts. There was one time I was in the Gardaí and there was a survey, and I got the thing by pure accident to do the survey, and it had to be filled in under supervision in a district headquarters station. in a big headquarters. And the higher officer didn't want me answering the question. So what he did was he arranged it that I'd go with another guard, another member of the force. And he was primed to get out of there quick before Val writes too much. He was into it about 1/3 of the way. He says, I'm going, are you coming? And that was the setup to get me out of there. Well, that's what I believe happened anyway. So anyway, if you're sharing lifts, will they leave in the middle until you come on? You come in with them, you bring them today. Next tomorrow, is the car won't start. Oh, be good, Daddy, can't you get going? And here you're waiting to go in for your exam. You can do without that. You got to assess who you're sharing lifts with. Assess who you're sharing lifts with. Are you with me? Not alone that, getting in is vital. Getting home can be a curse too. Or they're trying to get you out of there too early. Tatty boy, and don't come back tomorrow. I'll get my own way. Hump off. Watch the rascals, because 1/3 of the people sitting the exam have no intention of ever making anything of themselves. They'll be end up like that Coughlin's Tom and Joe Hayes and that Euro lad. Going around with their bumper jackets on them and smoking butts of fags in the corner. So you got to watch them and keep them away from you, and mix with people that will be listening to things and have a bit of conversation about stuff coming up to it and what might come up. And do you remember he said that mightn't be that important? Now, that's that. Now, the next thing is, remember then, when they're setting the exam, they set it so that you can't get 100%. Any exam setter who gets a lot of A's, a lot of high marks, is considered a failure. That doesn't mean he's out to fail you. And there's 2 ways they can do it. Usually there'll be 8 questions and you have to do 5, we'll say. So if they're to do that, they need 3 brutal ones. 3 brutal ones. So that's to stop you getting 100%. So you don't do them 3, and then you have the other 5 to do. But what they usually do is they split the question up in 3. So the first one might be set out the basics of a contract, or whatever, it doesn't matter. And you have them in your head, 5 or 6 points. You only get 4 of them, you're doing well. The next thing is, what are the exceptions? Give 2 exceptions. You see, the next one might be, I discuss them. And the third one might be, I'm trying to think something. It might be, explain how this can be affected by the postal rule, for example. That's that if you post a contract, it takes place the day you post it. But it might be something difficult like that, or it might be something that's not in the normal run of things that you'd spot if you really study, but you wouldn't normally study. Now, unless you're a real nerd, unless you're the cat's over here listening, and unless you're doing that, you won't do that. So understand, they'll set the paper so 1 and 2 is doable, or 1 and 3 is doable, and the middle one is not. You're going to be caught. That's a deliberate effort, and it's quite legitimate. So understand that. Don't read question 4 and see there's 1/4 of the question a brutal yoke. You're still going to get 70-something% for the other questions. Do you understand me now? Right, you have that. The next thing is, you get into your desk, have a bottle of water, of course. Get ordinary still water, or some. Don't be buying fizzy drinks. Get water. And have a few paracetamols in case you get a headache. The trouble is, if you smoke, I can't tell you what to do there. But be aware, if you're travelling with somebody who smokes, they'll want to get away early to get a cigarette. They'll not end up in good jobs. So you go in, usually to give you the exam paper. Now here's the tip. I've old papers here from earlier videos. You use as much paper as you can. You keep that fella down there. Keep him busy carrying your paper. Usually you'll get 1 sheet, and I prefer to use 1 sheet, 1 booklet for each question. But that mightn't be that nice. You might have to put 2 on a booklet. Ask him for your paper. When you get it, have a look at it, and then ask him for another one. Get two. This one here is a scrap one. And if there's something you're desperately trying to remember and you know you won't remember it, put down the initials. So we'll say it's offer, O, acceptance, A, offer, acceptance, intention, I, to create legal relations, what do you call it, consideration, C, or put C-O-N, and then put all that in, so that you have a wee prompter. He can't put you out for writing on an ordinary piece of paper that the department gives you to write on. Have that over there as a scrapbook. Write a big S on it here. Now get your real one. Now you're looking at your paper, and when you when that exam paper's over or whatever, it must be filthy dirty. It must be scribbled all over the place with big lines here, big lines there. There should be nearly as much writing on the exam paper as there is on the question, on the answer paper. Why? You're trying to figure out the questions. You're trying to spot the tricks. You're trying to see where the easy marks are. Now, they all say, and I tend to agree with this, don't do the question you're good at first. I remember I got one in it was advanced financial management, I think it was. And there was 2 questions at 30 apiece, 30 marks each, and the other 2 were 20 each. And I wasted too much time on the 2. And I only came in at 48. And only for I brought up on another paper, I'd have failed that exam. Because I didn't keep time watching the time. I should have done the 20 mark one and got it started and got on a bit. I then should have left it and done number 2. And then started the ones I was good at. Now, whatever way you do it, that's just my opinion. I think that's a good tip. Whatever way I do it, there is another rule that I'll bring in now. Let them put you out. Do not leave before the allotted time, no matter even if the place goes on fire. You stay. If the flames is licking up here, well, that's different. If the exam is cancelled because of the fire. Don't leave. One time I was helping that girl do an exam and she was leaving. I discovered she was leaving halfway through. She got disorientated, or she got despair. And I had to tell her father to bring her over and tell her straight, he's not collecting you until 1 o'clock. I won't be here for you if you come out. Stay in there. Do not leave. What's happening as the ones around you are going? These are ones... They're like the trolls I have here. They're never going anywhere. Oh, this takes it all the paper's allotted to give you the time to write. And they're going out halfway through. If you're allowed to speak, say, you'll get clean of the jacks. Insult them any way you can, because they're looking for notice. Oh, I have it done. I have it done. But you see, it'll be 2 or 3 months till the result comes out. Nobody will remember who left anywhere. That's why be very careful who your companions are. You're better going alone. Even they had to lie up on you coming. Because if they start going out and want you to come on, my daddy's outside. Oh, gee. It's an assaulting matter, and it should be a legally entitlement to assault somebody who does that. It's not. You will be leaving when their bell rings and they take up your paper, and not before, no matter how good you are. Get that through your skulls, young people. Big time. And our lads. Our ones. Now, when you are taking your paper, there's another 20% of young people, mainly, and maybe our lads, they cannot write without cramming everything up at the tip top. You'd think paper was £1 million a sheet, €1 million. And they'll write like this. Yeah, there. All up at the top. Crammed in the top left-hand corner. And when I was in the guards, there'd be people writing reports, and a lot of them are very, very good. A lot of them are very good. I'm not generalising, but there'd be an odd lad or lassie, and the whole thing would be stuck above the top of the paper. And this could be a report on a serious assault, or maybe a child sexual assault. And they couldn't feckin' well spread the thing out. Spread it out. Pull it out. Right? Now, so you're going to do question 3 because it's not the easiest one, but you have a good 50% there, and you're going to get it going. Get your questions out. A line for each thing. So what it might be environment. Name the 7 sleepers. A, the bee, the bat, the butterfly, the cuckoo. The A, the bee, the bat, the butterfly, the cuckoo, and you can't think of the other one. Oh, there's 7, A, B, C. Oh, you can't think of it. Right, leave your line. Do not start the next question just here and leave no room. I have no pencil here, have I? Have I a pen here? Here. Do not end up with your answer here. And then start the next question. I'll get a black biro here. Start the next question here. Question 3, we'll say this is 2. Say this is 2 and 3. Do not do that. Because when you remember what the 7th one was or the 8th one or whatever, you have no place. Do not do that. Leave space. S-P-A-C-E. You might wonder why I'm shouting. You wouldn't believe the amount of people who simply cannot get that through their head. I know that I'm reading reports all my life. Make space. So, you come along there, and instead of doing it that way, you have the bee, the bat, the butterfly, the cuckoo, and you go down here for number 3, you go down to I'll go over to the next page, and now you think of it later on, oh, the swallow, and you can write him in here. And to the lad reading it, it looks like you had it all originally. And you leave a good space here, because there might be something else. Now, for example, he might say, discuss. Well, you could say the bee goes in and he hibernates. The bat hibernates. He's an animal, or he's a mammal. The bee is an insect. The bat is a mammal. The butterfly is he an insect as well? He's a cat. He hatches from a caterpillar. The bee, the bat, the butterfly. The cuckoo, he comes here in May and June, and he lays his egg in another bird's nest. The bee, the bat, the butterfly, the cuckoo, and the swallow, and write about the swallow. Now, discuss. Well, there is another bit to that rhyme. The corncrake, the weatherblake, and all the rest that follows. So you might say, the corncrake used to be on this list. The weatherblake is the snipe. And all the rest that follows. But you could say, in your opinion, the snipe does not hibernate, because I have seen them out in the wintertime. He doesn't hibernate. And I don't believe the corncrake does either. So you're better off saying the corncrake doesn't hibernate than the corncrake does not hibernate. And you can get, in my opinion, the first 7 are the correct. Do you understand now? You can say in your opinion. Now, if you come on a question and you don't know the meaning, if there's 2 meanings for it, if it's by meaning, is there by everything's by nowadays. If it has a dual meaning, once you have it thought out, say, I was unsure of the meaning of the question. Was it A? Was it what it was? And I've chosen that it means wildlife in Ireland, for example. So you might be wondering, is there a similar rule in America? You know, so you put down, I'm assuming that this is in Ireland. Do you get my point? Once you tackle it, if they leave it doubtful, you can say, I must assume it's Ireland because it seems that's the question. Now, he can't dock your marks because you're not able to know what he asked you. A lot of examinations are failed on the question. Now, you leave your space. Use as much paper as you can. And that brings me now to the what do you call it? The scrap paper. As you are doing question number 2 on the 7 sleepers, If you have read your paper and you need to allow a 10-minute to read it, you might have a memory thing about this, and you stick it down on the bit of paper for now. If you're doing now question number 3, and we say you're at question number 4, and you remember, I never thought to say that the weather bleed also means the snipe. You now have place for a PS because you haven't crammed. So now you put in, note, the weather bleed is also a name for the common snipe. And you place to put it in, and you thought of that on question 4. Do not be doing question 4 thinking that there's marks on question 2 if you had to write them down. You have them here. You have the space and the biro in your hand and the pen. You can write it in. He'll not know where you got it. Does that make sense to you? And you use your scrap paper. And if you come across something that's applicable to one, go to the other. Now, as you go on down, you're watching the clock's up there, you're watching the clock, and you're trying to allocate your time. But there may come a time when you realise you're over the line. And when you realise you have enough to pass, that relieves your brain and you become wiser. And you think of things. In the exam I did one time that I passed but never got promoted, and the other one had failed and got promoted. The chief superintendent, who's now dead and gone, came in and gave us the answers to 3 or 4 questions, and they were all wrong. And instead of, I had to write down what I knew to be the answer, and he was giving them the wrong answers. And there, not only was he not helping, but he was making it impossible for me to keep my head on me. This is some pretty difficult things to remember. Garda procedures for the property of deceased persons is a very good example. How do you handle the property of a deceased person? There's very strict rules on it, and you must keep them. You must stick with them. I'm sorry for my phone going off. I might just check my text. Well, the first text I have here is a CAFA registered. He's negative for BVD. That's good news at the department. And the other one is only 3 days left for your single farm payment and your farm payments. You know, the department are very good. It's a pleasure working with the Department of Agriculture. Other people would say there's problems, but they're very efficient, and you get your wee text there, and they don't leave you out. And it's a well-run department. Maybe I shouldn't be pouring praise, but look at. Anyway, now, how about that? Now, I shouldn't have stopped. Forget. Anyway, that's what the chief super was doing. And he went out, and the superintendent came in to relieve him while he went to the toilet, and he started giving us answers, and most of them were wrong too. And I didn't get promoted, and them telling me wrong, and all the others got promoted, and they're telling. How do you deal with that? But that doesn't happen in the main exams Now, here's the key point, folks. Here's the key. When you get your pass, your mind becomes more clear, and you'll begin to think of things, and you have your notebook here to stick them down on. You're bringing this home with you, and you have your exam papers, and you use plenty of paper. If you are going a page, we'll say this is the first page of your exam sheet. Skip a page and always try and get something written on the top. This is old. You know, these are old slips here. Always try and bring it on to the next page, because that means you can put an arrow down here to go to the next. You have all this space. Don't try to cram in your answer down here on the bottom. Get it onto another page, because that gives you a full page, and then you can just put an arrow and go over to a fresh page for question 2. Do you understand me? Don't be sticking it all in the one page. Try to waste paper. One of your main objects is to waste paper. They have plenty of it. Don't worry about the climate and the trees. You get your question on over to the second page. Does that make sense to you? And then you have all this space. Now, when you get then, you're coming on, I have 11 minutes. Now is the crucial one. This is where you get the marks. You now come along and you go back over your questions very carefully. Correct little dots, no comma, no this, no that, no full stop. Get that done. How am I there? That's the one about the bead, the batter butterfly. Yes, I think that's all right. Oh, it says there to discuss. Now you have a big page here. Remember, you got the question over here to the top of this one. So now you have place to discuss. I'll discuss a wee bit more now about these creatures. The farming methods are having a big impact on these. Long ago, the pheasant would hatch his young, and there'd be hay cutting in July, and then because of cutting silage earlier, they're being chopped up. And efforts are being made then, because there is a system where you can't cut till the 1st of July. If you're in the scheme, I'm not in it yet. I might be. So now you have space to get it in. You've got that in now. Question 2, you look at the question, what it was about, love contract. Oh, ask me there what that other thing was. What was it? Oh, the postal rule. Oh, now you have place to write it in. The postal rule brought out by Henry VIII. The contract takes place when you post it, not when it's received. Now you're laughing. Now you go on to question number 3. Same thing. Question number 4. Correct all your dots. Clock is ticking. Only 5 minutes left. Do not waste that 5 minutes. Don't do it. Use that 5 minutes and try and get another one along with it. 6. Quick down. That's not bad there. I'm happy. I can't think of anything else. Maybe you got a mind block. If you have a mind block, you need to leave the space, because your mind might open up later. Leave space. LEAVE SPACE. Leave space. Then make sure if there's a page hid down here, they'll usually check it. Put a wee arrow just at the no over there. So she'll go over then and I have it here, yeah. And read over it. Never mind looking around you or anything else. They'll all be going out. Tell them go to hell. You stay there. You be the last going. And now you're reasonably well done with it. Now that'll do. Have I any other things to give you? Well, the memory block is a big trouble. And it's hard to get out of here what's in it. Now, be very careful about putting an opinion at the bottom that it nullified the whole thing. So, for example, if we take the bee, the bat, the butterfly, and to say that they don't exist they're unique to Ireland. Well, they're not. They're in Britain. But you want to be very careful. Say they habitat Ireland. Don't say they're a habitat Ireland exclusively. You're better off not writing it than writing it wrong. And a lot of correctors will say, a lot of examiners that do the papers will say, often a person has the pass there and they blow themselves out of the water by a stupid statement. Only put in what you know and couch it in such a way that you can't be dock marks on it. Have your rubber, have your Tipex, have all that, and have a ruler that you can see through it. Sometimes you need a calculator, and for some third level exams you can bring in your books. That's a good thing, because you're always ready. You always have to check complicated stuff. So a lot of them, they don't expect you to remember little detail. They want to know, do you know the concept? The women used to say on my course, we can count, but Van knows the concept. An example of that was the learning curve. If you're making chairs in a factory, you're making tables in a factory, and you're making them for 40 years, and someone comes in, he wants you to make chairs. You just can't change like that. There's a formula, and you have to write that out. It's an algorithm, the log tables, and that tells you how you price them correctly. He might say, I want 3 days production of chairs because the fella's gone sick up the road or he's gone out of business. Well, you got to count that properly, whether you'll take that at all. You just go, that'll be all right. You try to make that going, you'll find that the staff is not up to it for the moment. So this is stuff you need to deal with, and it's put down in the exams. And they have that worked out in things. So, but still, you need to do the study. You do need to do the study sensibly. Now, another wee bit of advice. Be very careful about duplicate study. If you know the bee, the bat, the butterfly, the cuckoo and the swallow, the corncrake, the weather blake and all the rest that follow. That's enough. Don't ever study that again. Don't study it again. I remember we were doing an exam I was up in Loudmead, And there was a chap there and he was studying the Betting Act and he was studying all the exceptions. And he'd do like studying them every day. And I said, will you stop studying that? You know that. Study something that's new. Be very careful about double studying. Once it's up here, you'll get enough to do you. Does that solve it? I don't know. I know a lot of people get A's and all A's in their exam. I don't know how they turn out. They don't be doing menial jobs. Anyway, have I helped you a bit there with that, folks, on doing the exams? They're coming up shortly. I think you know it now. Watch how you get in and out. And for parents as well, of course. Watch how they get in and out. Have your equipment, which, as I've said in the video. Be careful who you share transport with. Be careful about being letting down getting in and getting home. People wanting to go early. You're always the last to leave the room. Always leave only when the bell rings. Never before, never. Doesn't matter who wants to go, you stay there. There's always some correction. There's always something to be found out. There's always something to be got back to. Do the question you're not so good at first. And then go on to the ones you're good at about midway. And of course, leave space and have a spare answer paper. You're not allowed to bring in paper. Get it off them. Leave space at the end of each question. Try and get your question over to the next page so you have the whole bottom of the page then. Go on to a different page then for the next answer. Leave space. LEAVESPACE. Have a ruler to underline it. Have a red pencil there too, maybe to emphasize something. I don't know how you meant to do it, but I do often do it, no harm. And let the clock tick there and you get your exam done like that. Have your study done before. Be aware a small amount of teachers teach the thing too much. They have too much detail. A very good example might be about some things, that I'd be trying to tell people here. I believe people went through all university and they studied Joyce. Now, Ulysses is Joyce's main work, and it's a bellyful. But the one thing I am absolutely certain about, and there'll be good marks in this, what Ulysses is about is a man daydreaming. He starts in the morning and he daydreams. If you were to retrace his steps in Dublin, he'd be 6 months getting through it. It's the way you're up the fields, you're fixing a hedge or you're cutting a bush or you're putting up a piece of a fence and you're thinking about something else. Like there's lads today now going around cutting silage up in County Louth and they are thinking about the football on Sunday. And that's the wandering of the mind. That's what it's about. Now, if you are studying that, you could ask the lecturer, would it be right in saying that? And if you know, that's a point of view. And you can put out, in my opinion, that's what he was getting across because he couldn't achieve all he did. It wasn't meant to be actually reality. It was meant to be the ramblings or the mind thoughts of Leopold Bloom. So that's an example where you give your opinion and it won't put you out of the water. Who can say it's right or wrong? You get marks for that. That shows you're trying to conquer the concept. Are you with me? Folks, I've surely left something out. If I have, I'll make another video of it. That's one of the longest ones I ever made. I believe my system can bring you 7% in your exam. SEVEN, 7. But of course there'll be youngsters who won't listen. What has he, only a farm with cows? Use plough on. Some people just don't want to be in academic jobs. But you might as well make the best of it. When you're there, you won't get the second chance. You won't get the chance again. Comment underneath whatever you want to say. Needless to say, people have said that's nonsense, that's not in the modern world. Well, I don't think exams ever change. I don't think they ever change. I think they ever change. What about cogging? What about learning from somebody else? Well, they try to stop you doing it. What about bringing notes out with you into the toilet? Well, I don't know. I never did it anyway. I can't tell you what to do there. Some people can't get concepts right. It's very difficult. Be aware there are limits to every brain, and there's a limit to every student's brain. And if you reach the limit of it, that's it. You can't expect yourself to write down something that you'd never figure out in 1,000 years. But you still don't sell yourself short, and try and get the best mark you can. And when the exam ends at 1 o'clock, there'll be a post-mortem. It's good for the relief. It lets off pressure. A quick post-mortem, I would say, oh, this, that, but don't spend too long on it. Get on to the next exam and get the same process in line for the next exam might be at 2:30. So get into it or tomorrow. If the exam's not till tomorrow, you can have a bit of a post-mortem. If the exams are again at 3:00 and it's now 2, now 1:30, you want to be moving on to getting ready for the next one. And definitely coolness is no good. The exam is designed, you know the way you'll get a cool fella. Oh, it's all right, I wouldn't worry about it. That's baloney. That fella's not cut out for academic or any job that requires thought. Look at the vets, how hard they have to study. You won't become a vet, even though you have to handle big cattle, big rough cattle. And vets have died in their jobs by accidents. You won't become a vet unless you know you're able to pass your exam. You will not become a vet. And a doctor, of course. So a vet is a very good example because it's a practical outdoor job with animals and big animals and horses. And yet you have to know the studies. So there's no way around knowing your stuff. That's it, 41 minutes, one of the longest videos I ever made. I'll leave it up. If I get a good response, I'll leave it up a while. If I don't, I'll take it out of here. But maybe nobody wants to see it. That's their business. That's their business. Bye-bye. We'll see you.